From the east to the west, the north to the south, Money on the Mark. With your host, Dale Jackson.
Money on the Mark, a program where we explore the world of money here from the money capital of the world in New York City. Today, we're going to be talking about the real type of money we can hold in our hands that is not paper. It's weightier, far weightier than paper, far more precious than paper, and that is the item of silver, the commodity of silver that truly is a store of value. What our paper fiat currency is no longer such an item to store the value of our wealth and especially of our savings. Welcoming to the program, let's welcome David Morgan, one of the most respected silver analysts in the world. David, thanks for coming on the program today here in New York.
Well, Dale, it's a pleasure to be with you.
David, so many years, decades, everyone has sought your advice, your opinion, your guidance with silver. Now more than ever, it goes without saying here in this turbulent time of runaway inflation and government spending, silver is more attractive than ever. Am I right, David?
Well, I think so. Silver actually has been the money of history. Certainly gold is as well. But silver's actually been used more often in more places for more transactions than gold has in all of recorded history. So silver is certainly the monetary metal of the people. I mean, it's the merchant class. It's how you do your daily transactions, and it's been that way for centuries.
David, I like, and I know you do as well, I like the incredible opportunity in silver. It's been called the poor man's gold. I don't know if you want to call it that or not, but along that line, of course, we can hold that ounce of silver versus holding that ounce of gold, and it's a much smaller amount of money. So that's where possibly we have the leverage of buying, the coin that doesn't cost a small fortune, at least for the moment, in silver. So am I right, David? So this aspect alone, it lets all of us, and of course the one with wealth, you still want to look at the possibility that it makes a whole lot more sense than, to buy something, because it'll be easier for silver at these prices to double or triple than it would be for gold or double or triple. Am I right, David?
Absolutely, and you said a couple things I think could bear further comment. One is when I wrote the 10 Rules of Silver Investing for the Investing Rules book several years ago for the book published in the United Kingdom, they looked at experts across the world in different fields. They chose me for silver, and of course, when you put out 10 rules, you want to make them all succinct and meaningful. Of course, when you're going to put the rules out, the number one rule is probably the most important. At least that's how I see it. So when I wrote that, the number one rule was when all else fails, there is silver. That's the rule. Of course, you expand on that. And I stated no one likes to be a prophet of doom, but the simple truth is that silver is the world's money of last resort. Should a severe economic collapse occur, leaving paper assets worthless, silver will be the primary currency for purchase of goods and services. And then in parentheses, I write, gold will be a store of major wealth, but will be priced too high for day-to-day use. Thus, every investor should own some physical silver and store a portion of it where it's accessible in an emergency. Now, obviously that's the worst-case scenario, but certainly if we study monetary history, those instances have taken place time and time again. And even if nothing drastic happens, having a silver investment, not needing to use it for a purchase, but just having silver, as you said, and this is the second part of your question, has been a superior investment to gold. Because at the beginning of the bull market in the precious metals, and I refer to all precious metals, gold, silver, platinum, palladium, the ratio is 80 to 1. In other words, it took 80 ounces of silver to buy 1 ounce of gold. Today it takes 50. So people say the ratio doesn't matter. Certainly you can have your opinion on that. but factually, the ratio tells you which is performing better, and silver's actually performed better than gold. That is not to say it's not been a wilder ride. It's not to say it's not more volatile. It's not to say that it can be really drastically hair-raising at times. All those things included, silver's outperformed gold so far.
And David, I'm sure you would be the first one to say that diversification is one of the wisest approaches to anyone's investment portfolio. You do not want all of the eggs in any one basket, whether that be the philosophy of growth stocks or blue chip stocks or municipal bonds or treasuries or whatever. And you wouldn't want a disproportionate percentage in the metals either. But there we go again, the diversification to have something, to have whether that's the 5% position or the 10% position or the 20% position, it's to have something in the area of silver, such a precious metal that is used far and wide in the industrial sector. Am I right, David? What would you say? Would you have a figure offhand of how many ways in industry silver is used?
Well, yeah, again, you commented on a couple of things. One is going to back you up on the percentage. Again, going back to silver rules, rule number 10, more than 10% is too much of a good thing, no matter how much the market looks or how worried you are about the financial future. We feel that 10% is probably good regardless of your position. Now, I increased that prior to the recent war efforts several years ago and said 20% is more likely, but 10 is still a good round number. As far as the industrial usage, it continues to grow. Certainly it waxes and wanes during the recessionary environment that we've seen on a global basis, and looks like we're going perhaps into a double dip. Regardless, the amount of silver used in industry a decade ago was about 38% of the market. Today it's 54% of the market. So silver's usage continues to grow even as silver supply continues to increase, because mining activity has grown substantially since the commodities boom started in the year 2000. So silver is used both as money and in industry. And again, although it looks like we're getting some kind of stagnation here as far as silver usage as industry, it's grown substantially over the last decade.
Well, David, that's all great food for thought. We're going to take a break, and then we'll come back with more of a person that has been called the silver guru, Mr. David Morgan. More right after this.
Money on the Mark with Dale Jackson will be back after these important messages.
Start saving in silver. Saving in silver is the new American revolution. Saving in the dollar has become a great tragedy. The government's runaway printing and out-of-control spending is destroying the value of the dollar. Start saving in silver. Silver123.net. Silver123.net. Real money, true money, silver will hold its value and grow. An account for a newborn, the oldest retiree, everyone in between. Silver is the way to save. Silver123.net. Silver123.net. Held securely in a bonded insured facility and delivered upon request. Everyone should have a savings account in silver. Start with as little as $50. Add, reduce at any time. Save in silver, the prudent way to save. Log on and start saving in silver. Silver123.net. Silver123.net. Watch the informative video and learn how easy it is to save in silver. Start today with an account for yourself, your children, or your grandchildren. $50 or $50,000. Silver is the way to save. Silver123.net. Silver123.net.
And we're back on Money on the Mark. I'm your host, Dale Jackson, a program where we are exploring the world of money here from the money capital of the world. And today we're talking about real money, and that is silver. And we're talking to one of the most respected experts in the world on the commodity of silver, and that is Mr. David Morgan. David, before the break there, you brought out a great point. The industrial use of silver, the percentage has grown in recent years from 38% of the use of silver in industry up to 54%. That's amazing. Let's talk about the inventory of silver. It used to be, as I recall, two or three decades ago, there was phenomenal inventories above ground. How close to zero in terms of the backup of inventory is the present position in silver, David?
Well, it's quite a story. I'm just going to go back in the recent history, which means a few decades here. But if you go back about 20 years to 1990, the above-ground supply of industrial commercial-grade silver, in other words, what you would use in industry or investment, 1,000-ounce bars, was roughly 2 billion ounces. By the time we hit 2006, that had dwindled down to less than 500 million. So over that 16-year time frame, we used up about 1.5 billion ounces of above-ground supply. And that trend looked for a while like it was not going to end. Well, all commodities strive for equilibrium. In other words, when there's a demand for something, the market, especially if there's a free market, tries to fill that need. And, of course, silver is no exception to that. So during the commodities boom that started roughly in the year 2000, from 2000 to 2006, more and more mining was taking place, and the silver supply started to increase due to mining activities. So around the 2006 time frame, the lowest amount of silver above ground in investment form, or in industrial form, was again about 500 million ounces. Started to increase. Right now, we're probably back up to probably 1 billion ounces in that form. In the 1,000-ounce bar form, we're roughly at about 1 billion ounces. So it's grown from 2006 to 2012, but yet the amount being used in industry has continued to be fairly steady, with the exception of the 2008 financial crisis. And the amount of investment demand has grown substantially from that same date. From 2006 till present day, the investment demand for silver has accelerated drastically. And the reason for that is that in April of 2006, the first major ETF, there were other ones out there that really were, I consider, holding companies, and you could buy silver through them. But regardless, the first exchange-traded fund, the SLV, was launched in London in April 2006. And from that point till this, there's been more and more ETFs that have come on board that invest in silver. So the amount of silver investment has gone up, again, substantially from 2006 to now. So we're basically in a situation where the above-ground supply has grown, but the tightness in the market, in other words, how much silver is being held for either industrial use and or investment demand, is still significant enough for silver to be in a rather tight supply situation.
David, you used a term there that has been more in our vocabulary in recent years and on the news and so forth, financial crisis. And, of course, in every direction you look, there is a financial crisis. And the United States situation, with the runaway spending, $1.5 trillion deficit every year, and our own government is telling us that there is no end in sight for $1 trillion a year deficits. Mr. Obama was supposed to take it down to half. He's increased it. Financial crisis. The United States is 1,000 times Greece and that sort of thing. So back to our own personal situation, our own wallet, our own checkbook, our own personal saving situation. Let's talk about the sponsor of today's program, Silver123.net. That is a very convenient way, whether it's the putting away the $100 or $500 for the newborn child, or personally, of course, or whether it's $50,000. In this computer age, now we have a very convenient way that if we don't want to go buy the bag of silver, we can go online and do something very, very easy and very convenient. Am I right, David?
Absolutely. I am an affiliate of Silver123.net, and I know the people that started it. I really think it's a very good program for both large and small investors, particularly the average person out there, because it only takes probably 10 minutes or less to set up an automatic program where you save a certain amount of money in the best money available, either silver and or gold. It's good. You can do it in gold as well as silver. And it's a monthly accumulation program, and you have the option. You can take it, delivery of it each month if you choose to do so, which I advocate most people should. But there are instances where someone's in an apartment, or they're elderly, or they have two homes, or they're not home a lot, or whatever, and there are valid reasons why you wouldn't want to have it on the premises. And in that case, it will store it for you, and it's a depository there in in the Northeast, where it's one that I visited and know the people that run it, and I'm certain that your silver and gold are there. So, again, it's silver123.net. It actually piggybacks on to one of my silver investing rules, and this is rule number 4. And this is one that sounds corny, but it is so good, and it's just something that most people overlook, and yet if they've done it, they would be so ecstatically happy. It's called a dollar cost average to lower your costs and increase your discipline. That's rule number 4. Dollar cost averaging is an ideal way to implement rule 2, which is how to buy silver. By making the same dollar purchases at regular time intervals, you wind up buying more metal when the prices are low and less when the price is high. This approach helps you develop discipline, erasing the trader mentality that infects many market participants and instead fosters an investment philosophy. Dollar cost averaging also eases some of the sting when prices move against you, allowing you to view the downturn as an improved buying opportunity rather than a disappointing loss. Now, had you started a Silver Saver program when it started a couple years ago, you'd be very happy today. But if this program existed 10 years ago and it did not, but had it, you would be ecstatically happy because you would be averaging into silver all the way from the $5 level to the present time, and your average cost, because of dollar cost averaging, will be substantially lower than the $30 level that we're at right now. So as you said, Dale, in the beginning, what do we do in these type of environments? And the answer is you have to save money. But the money that you must save is not paper dollars or euros or any other paper currency. It's real money. It's gold and silver.
Real money. That's what I like. David, we'll have more. Let's take a break and coming back more with David Morgan today talking about silver. Let's hear something about silver123.net.
Money on the Mark with Dale Jackson will be back after these important messages.
Start saving in silver. Saving in silver is the new American revolution. Saving in the dollar has become a great tragedy. The government's runaway printing and out-of-control spending is destroying the value of the dollar. Start saving in silver. Silver123.net. Silver123.net. Real money, true money, silver will hold its value and grow. An account for a newborn, the oldest retiree, everyone in between. Silver is the way to save. Silver123.net. Silver123.net. Held securely in a bonded insured facility and delivered upon request. Everyone should have a savings account in silver. Start with as little as $50. Add, reduce at any time. Save in silver, the prudent way to save. Log on and start saving in silver. Silver123.net. Silver123.net. Watch the informative video and learn how easy it is to save in silver. Start today with an account for yourself, your children, or your grandchildren. $50 or $50,000. Silver is the way to save. Silver123.net. Silver123.net.
And we're back on Money on the Mark. I'm your host, Dale Jackson. Today, joining us, so pleased that he's joining us, that is David Morgan, perhaps one of the most respected experts in the area of silver in the world today. David, we all know how our own government in the U.S. of A. is runaway spending. They are trying to get the horse back in the barn. Good luck. It is, you'd look on a chart, it's something like a hockey puck, they call it, of our debt, the national debt, the annual budget deficits. That all tells us to watch out in the area of a paper currency. David, back in the 1980s, I had the privilege to interview one of the most respected presidents we've had, at least in modern times, and that was Ronald Reagan. I was asking him some things about the paper currency, and he brought out something that's amazing. I love the quote, and I love to quote him quite often. He said, "History tells us that no government has ever survived fiat currency." Then he added, imitation money. And so he says, I am asking some of the advisors on my side right now to look in some sort of tying the American dollar to metals. That's a paraphrasing there, but the thought is, I'm sure if those experts looked into it, our currency and the volume of paper currency that the U.S. government has in circulation, they can't even entertain the thought of that. So back again, David, where do we go? How bad do you think this financial crisis could get in the coming years with this terrible deficit spending of the U.S. of A?
Well, I think it's going to get significantly worse than it is now. I want to comment on what President Reagan stated. He's correct. And we've got to go back in time and look at the Bretton Woods Agreement that was after World War II, where the dollar became the reserve currency of the world. The main reasons for that was that the dollar was exchangeable at $42.22 an ounce. And in those days, there were a couple of adages that everyone knew was sound as a dollar or good as gold. Those two adages were basically hand in hand. Dollar was very sound because it was as good as gold.
And of course, David, let me insert right there. You recall as well as I do, or anybody in the audience that's over about 40 or 50 years old, you remember those single dollars that we had way back then that had that beautiful blue print on the top part of the dollar that said silver certificate, but they took that off, right? Go ahead.
Exactly. So August 15th, 1971, Nixon closed the gold window and said basically he broke the contract with the world, saying that the dollar is no longer as good as gold. It's as good as the markets say it is. We're going to float the dollar. And as a point of reference, normally in history, when you go on a complete fiat standard, which happened on that date, it usually lasts about 40 years. So if you add 40 to 1971, you come out with 2011. August 15, 2011 was the 40-year anniversary. It's not a precise number. The reason I bring that up is here we are in 2012, and we're in the hockey stick modality that you mentioned, meaning that the debt has gone exponential. No matter how much money you throw at this thing, things are getting worse and worse and worse. This is what Zimbabwe witnessed. I mean, if you could print your way out of this thing, Zimbabwe would be the richest place on the planet, and it's not. It's a failed economy. So we are on that track. Now, again, how bad will it get? The truthful answer is no one knows. I'm a big believer in the human spirit. I'm a big believer in the American free enterprise system, what's left of it. I do believe that with this recent discovery of this fracking method throughout North Dakota and Montana, where we're able to supply a great deal of our energy over the next few years, that may be a bit of our saving grace. The other thing is the regulation and the over-regulation by government. We've really got to get back to the core principles that made this country great, and that's less government. We need less interference in our lives. We let the people be free to innovate and to be able to basically, for the corny analogy of do their own thing. In other words, get out of the way, let the market take care of most of these things, and I think we could be back on a path of a full, strong recovery, but it's going to take a longer time than most people think. Warren Buffett, probably one of the best-known investors in America, said, well, we'll just grow our ways out of it. With all due respect to Warren Buffett, the only way you could grow your way out of this deficit is to compound your growth at 20%. That's impossible in an economy this large. So
let's in the meantime, David, let's all do the right thing and let's diversify into silver. David, what is your website for your newsletter and everything? Please provide us that.
Website is silver-investor.com, or the other URL is themorganreport.com. Either one will take you there.
David, thank you so much for joining us today on the program in New York. We're going to be talking more to you in the coming months because of the situation, because of this election year, because of the emphasis that will be made on economic issues, financial issues. To have David Morgan come on the program and talk about silver and talk about the wise things that the government should be doing in the areas of the dollar. That's what we want to hear. Thank you so much, David. Have a great day.
Thank you, Dan. My pleasure.
David Morgan, the sometimes called and rightfully called the Silver Guru, one of the wisest persons on the globe today in the area following silver and knowing the pulse of something so precious as silver. Thank you for joining us here on Money on the Mark. We'll see you again, same place, same time next week. Thank you.
Start saving in silver. Saving in silver is the new American revolution. Saving in the dollar has become a great tragedy. The government's runaway printing and out-of-control spending is destroying the value of the dollar. Start saving in silver. Silver123.net. Silver123.net. Real money, true money, silver will hold its value and grow. An account for a newborn, the oldest retiree, everyone in between. Silver is the way to save. Silver123.net. Silver123.net. Held securely in a bonded insured facility and delivered upon request. Everyone should have a savings account in silver. Start with as little as $50. Add, reduce at any time. Save in silver, the prudent way to save. Log on and start saving in silver. Silver123.net. Silver123.net. Watch the informative video and learn how easy it is to save in silver. Start today with an account for yourself, your children, or your grandchildren. $50 or $50,000. Silver is the way to save. Silver123.net. Silver123.net.